Hello, it's me, Darkfry the Hedgehog, and let's not beat around the bush here. You saw the title, you saw the thumbnail, and you clicked on it. We're talking about Thwomps today. In case you've been living under some sort of rock all your life, Thwomps are a classic enemy in the Super Mario series. They've been around since Mario 3 and have since become a staple of the series. They exist in some iteration in pretty much every mainline Mario game and have inspired other Thwomp-like enemies in the 2D platformer genre. Now, I can hear you asking, Darkfry, why are you making an entire video about Thwomps? Because my brain spun a wheel to find a new thing to obsess over, this is what it landed on, and now I have to make it your problem. So I'm gonna tell you a bunch of my favorite Thwomp facts, and you're gonna love it! I will answer your burning Thwomp questions you didn't even know you had. Like, why do Thwomps have such prominent lips? Why are they so kissable? I will also list off my top 10 favorite Thwomps. And I'm not talking about Thwomp types or Thwomp designs, I mean specific Thwomps. And we will learn a lot from all of them. But first, I would like to thank this video's sponsor, you! Specifically, the wonderful people who support me on Patreon. Their names are on screen right now, with special thank you to Sunny Haven, Oralytical, 333M, and Sethzerd. You too can join my Patreon for just $1 a month, get access to my videos early, as well as to my Discord server. In all seriousness, I am trying to level up my video production and work on game dev projects as well, and your support will help tremendously in making that a reality. Thank you. Now, ladies, gentlemen, and those of you who spit in the face of gender, let's rank some Thwomps. Wait a minute, this isn't a Mario game, this is footage from a Zelda game. Correct, the title of this countdown is Top 10 Thwomps in Video Games, and that is a purposeful word choice, since Thwomps are so iconic that they are not unique to the Mario series. At number 10, we have a boss in Legend of Zelda Oracle of Ages, the Head Thwomp. This is an odd-looking Thwomp, but it's a Thwomp alright. The boss fight itself isn't super interesting. The most notable thing about this boss is actually its name. Head Thwomp is a completely redundant name. Thwomps are just heads after all. So I theorize that the actual meaning of the name Head Thwomp is meant to signify its status as the chief of the Thwomps. It is a boss fight after all. This is significant for our Thwomp knowledge since this is an example of Thwomps having a social hierarchy and leadership. We don't know much about the socio-political situation of the Thwomps. All we really know is that they are loyal to Bowser. As far as I can tell, this is the only example of a Thwomp that leads other Thwomps. Not much else about the Head Thwomp is memorable though, aside from how nightmarish it looks. Super Mario Land 2 is an amazing game that is often overlooked, but deserves to be talked about because it introduced a lot of important things to the series. In the final boss fight with Wario, who was also introduced in this game, he uses one of Mario's power-ups against him. This is the first instance of an enemy using power-ups for themselves, an idea that would not get revisited until 19 years later in Super Mario 3D Land, which is where we find our number 9 Thwomp. This duo of tail Thwomps are the only ones of their kind in the series, and it's the only time you get to see Thwomps have this unique, floaty movement pattern. Usually, Thwomps only hover above one specific spot and fall when Mario gets close. This is one of the few instances where we see Thwomps engage in horizontal movement. As we will see later, We know that Thwomps can move horizontally, they just usually choose not to. This leads me to believe that Thwomps are highly territorial in nature, dedicating themselves to protecting the spot under them, which is also why they look so pissed when they notice Mario approach them. The tail Thwomps exhibit different behavior than normal though, being much more free and whimsical in their movements. Seeing a Thwomp slowly flutter to the ground is simply magical. Probably gender affirming for them too. I'm happy for them. The Thwomp at our number 8 spot is a simple and wholesome one. In Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars, there is a small hub called Monstro Town where friendly monsters live. In one of the houses, there's an absolute legendary unit of a Thwomp who compliments Mario on his jumping ability, and then proceeds to demonstrate his thwomping capabilities. This Thwomp is notable not just for being an icon in the Thwomp world, but because when he slams the ground, he nudges a key outside the house closer to the ledge, and eventually it will fall and be obtainable, letting you access a huge treasury. So this Thwomp plays a big role in one of the coolest secrets in this game. Legendary Thwomp, easily deserving the number 8 spot. Number 7 might be an unexpected pick, and it comes from the critically acclaimed 1996 cult classic Super Mario 64. This game features a lot of Thwomps, but the one we care about is the lone Thwomp at the very top of Tick-Tock Clock. Why is this Thwomp the best Thwomp in Super Mario 64 and the 7th best Thwomp in video games? Simple. Because this Thwomp is part of a clockwork mechanism. A fun fact you might not know about me is that I'm a big clock enthusiast. I got a lot of clocks, and I'm also a certified watch freak. I have a ton of respect and appreciation for the function and aesthetics of clockwork. Now, let me tell you, clocks are complicated, intricate, elegant machinery. Every single part of a clock must work perfectly in sync with each other, or everything devolves into chaos. And this Thwomp is not only a part of that, I have reason to believe that this Thwomp is the core of this entire mechanism. Let's talk about 3D Thwomps for a second. Thwomps are among the few Mario enemies who work completely differently depending on if they're in a 2D or 3D game. In 2D games, Thwomps will fall down if and only if Mario gets close to them. In the 3D games, Thwomps fall down periodically, regardless of Mario's proximity to them, on a constant loop. Now, here's the thing about 3D Thwomps. They have a remarkable sense of rhythm. They rise and fall with frame-perfect precision every time. They must have the best rhythm of any living being in the Mario universe, and that makes them the perfect choice for a clockwork mechanism. This Thwomp is the only living being that is part of Tick-Tock Clock's machinery, to the point where it is also affected by the stage's timing mechanic. With real clockwork, since every component has to move together, only one part actually moves, and the rest are connected to it with gears. I propose the theory that since this Thwomp is the only living part of this mechanism, every other part of the level is synchronized to it. It's appropriate that this Thwomp sits at the apex of Tick-Tock Clock, and getting to it is such a fucking nightmare. While getting footage for this video, it took me 38 minutes to reach this Thwomp. Look, if you've seen the Mario Marathon charity stream I did recently, you know that I'm not very good at Mario 64. But the difficulty of reaching it only emphasizes this Thwomp's importance for Tick-Tock Clock. It is its motor, its metronome, its beating heart. Okay, here's a scenario. You are doing a blind playthrough of Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. You trudge through the game's slow but charming tutorial segment and enter Chapter 1, the real meat of the game. At some point, you are tasked with entering some ruins to get a key. First, you enter a room and are attacked by some stone clefts that are pretty tough for this point in the game. Then, you enter a second room and are attacked by spiky enemies that are really tough and can only be killed with an item at this point in the game. Then, you reach a third door, which also has a healing block next to it. You've played a video game before, you know the rule of 3. You enter the room prepared for a boss fight, and you see a Thwomp sitting on a pedestal. This makes sense. The previous enemies you fought were also sitting on pedestals before attacking you, and they were also made of stone. The boss being a big stone Thwomp enemy is the most natural of progressions. You talk to the Thwomp, and right about here is when you realize that Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door is one of the best games ever made. Number 6 is the Chapter 1 Trivia Thwomp, or as I like to call him, Thwomp Trebek. This stands out to me as the first real instance of Thousand-Year Door subverting expectations in its usual charming way, throwing you into a quiz show instead of a boss fight, cementing this Thwomp as an absolute legend. Number 5 is the first Mario Kart Thwomp on this list. The giant Thwomp in the middle of the Thwomp Desert Battle Course in Mario Kart Wii. This is the first of the explicitly Thwomp-themed areas we will talk about in this video. At first glance, Thwomp Desert is nothing special, just a desert with some quicksand and the titular Thwomp in the middle. Yet, driving around this arena will reveal a deeper, more interesting truth. Are those dead, fallen Thwomps? This isn't just a Thwomp desert. This is a Thwomp graveyard. This also raises a lot of questions about the still living Thwomp who so persistently keeps hovering above the graves of his brethren. Was this place a battlefield for some sort of Thwomp war? Or is it just a mass grave of Thwomps? Was this Thwomp one of the warriors, and he emerged victorious over his enemies? Is this Thwomp here to mourn his fallen comrades and protect their resting place from interlopers? I believe that particular interpretation is quite likely, since Thwomps usually exhibit territorial behavior, so I like to think that this Thwomp choosing to protect a mass grave of Thwomps has some sort of sentimental meaning. I appreciate the service this Thwomp is doing, and his show of respect for his friends who earned their last, landing him the number 5 spot. I am bending the rules a little bit for this entry, but number 4 is the Sniffle Thwomp enemy in Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. Why is this normal enemy encounter so high on this list? Because for Thwomp experts and historians like me, these enemies are an absolute treasure trove of information. These Thwomps, existing in this specific state, in this specific location, in this specific game, implies a lot of things. Thwomps can get sick, for one. Truly groundbreaking. Thwomps have internal biology that can be disrupted by viruses and illnesses, and they have body temperature that needs maintaining and monitoring. Not only that, Thwomps take damage while they are sick. Thwomps are incredibly resilient creatures. They cannot be hurt by Mario with anything except an invincibility star. This is the only example of a Thwomp being shown to consistently take damage from normal attacks, and it seems that their sickness is a key component in that. Thwomps are ancient beings made out of stone that have some sort of mysterious biology within them, and either have incredibly long lifespans or are straight up immortal. This makes me think that Thwomps possess a lobster-like pseudo-immortality, ancient creatures that are immune to aging and can only be harmed or disturbed by external factors. Whoever the Mario Universe equivalent of Jordan Peterson is, he probably uses Thwomps to peddle his bunk ideology. The other interesting thing about the Sniffle Thwomps is their location. In Mario and Luigi Bowser's Inside Story, Bowser gets ousted from his own castle by Fawful, and he also loses control of most of his troops. This is the only game where someone else is in charge of Bowser's army, and it's also the only time where we see some of Bowser's troops be literally sick. I don't think this is a coincidence. The implication here is that Fawful is abusing Bowser's minions, forcing them to work and risk their lives even while sick. I don't think this is a reach either. In the Mario RPGs, the good ones anyway, Bowser is consistently shown to be a caring boss who is widely beloved by his troops. And why wouldn't they love him? He's hilarious and hot, and he gives them healthcare. Bowser is the ideal employer, whereas Fawful is a cruel clown who wants to be known for having good vibes and chortles while gleefully abusing everyone around him and stealing from them. Oh no, I think I just realized that Fawful is a tech bro. We are continuing our trek through the Mario RPGs, this time going to Thwomp Volcano in Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, where we find our number 3 spot, Mrs. Thwomp. Once again, like the Sniffle Thwomps, the existence of Mrs. Thwomp tells us a lot about the Thwomp species. Mrs. Thwomp is the only female Thwomp we see in the entire series. She also has a completely different shape than the others. Instead of a rectangular shape, she is a sphere, more round and boulder-like. And unlike male Thwomps, she has arms. This is truly a revelation in Thwomp biology. Thwomps exhibit clear sexual dimorphism. They also appear to be monogamous, which is impressive considering the fact that they probably have extremely long lifespans. This really changes everything. It even recontextualizes every other Thwomp we see throughout the series. Every Thwomp Mario comes across is male, or at the very least mask-presenting. Mr. Thwomp and Mrs. Thwomp in Partners in Time also don't work for Bowser, since they're in the past when Bowser wasn't around. So they don't have any military duties to fulfill and can just enjoy their life in the Thwomp Volcano. It's entirely possible that every single Thwomp Mario sees has a wife waiting for them at home. This Thwomp, for example, just a singular Thwomp in a secret room in 3D World. Does this Thwomp ever leave this place? Do they take shifts? Does he ever get to visit his home? Or is he just doomed to stoically and perpetually hover over this specific spot for all eternity? Being shown a happily married Thwomp couple living normal lives really changes how I think about Thwomps, to be honest. Plus, I just can't get over the sexual dimorphism thing. A sculptor in the Mario universe can give gender-affirming surgery to trans Thwomps. The T in HRT stands for Thwomp. Thwomps are trans icons. I should also mention the area Mrs. Thwomp is in. Thwomp Volcano is one of 3 areas in the Mario universe that are explicitly Thwomp themed, and even have Thwomp in the name. Thwomp Volcano in Mario and Luigi Partners in Time, Thwomp Ruins in Mario Kart 8, and the aforementioned Thwomp Desert in Mario Kart Wii. These areas have a few things in common. First off, they all have banger music. Secondly, they are all areas that have to do with the past. Thwomp Volcano and Partners in Time takes place in the distant past. Thwomp Desert has hints of a Thwomp War fought long in the past. The existence of Thwomp Ruins implies the existence of an ancient civilization that revered Thwomps. Since stone was probably the most useful and valuable resource at the time, that makes a lot of intuitive sense. In fact, I considered putting the Thwomp sculptures of Thwomp Ruins on this list, but didn't end up doing it because they are not living Thwomps, so they don't qualify. Remember when I said that Bowser is consistently portrayed as a good boss who cares about his troops? I want to emphasize that that is true for Bowser in the Mario RPGs. Mario Kart Bowser is a completely different story. In the Nintendo 64 version of Bowser's Castle, once you drive into the building, you will see an imprisoned Thwomp in the background. Bowser is keeping a Thwomp as a prisoner in his own castle. Not in like a dungeon. No, this is in the main hallway of his castle, on full public display as soon as you enter it. Not only is Bowser keeping this Thwomp prisoner, he's making a show of it, and given the sorts of people this treatment is usually given to in real life, one can only speculate what sort of actions this Thwomp was arrested for. Maybe this Thwomp started a union. Maybe this Thwomp squished a billionaire Koopa. Maybe he organized a protest. It's hard to say. We don't know what exactly he did, but what we can be sure of is that this Thwomp is a class hero, which is why the Mario Kart fanbase has rallied around this Thwomp, who they have affectionately named Marty, and are campaigning to get him freed. There's a reason Marty became an icon in the Mario fanbase. He is being made an example of by Bowser, and yet he laughs in his prison and takes it in stride. He knows that justice, and more importantly, the people, are on his side. As a side note, if I made a top 10 worst Thwomps list, these traitorous bastards guarding the hallway in front of Marty's cell would definitely be on it. Fucking cop Thwomp pigs. It should come as no surprise that to find the number 1 best Thwomp in video games, we need to go back to the place where it all began. Super Mario Bros. 3 for the Nintendo Entertainment System. Thwomps in this game are usually relegated to the fortress levels, where they serve their usual function of stomping the ground directly below them. However, in the first fortress of World 8, you can find some Thwomps that break the mold, including the winner of our number 1 spot and Best Thwomp in Video Games award. Ladies and gentlemen, and those of you who tango outside the gender universe, allow me to introduce you to the Diagonal Thwomp. Look at it. Majestic. Beautiful. Transcendent. Such smooth, symmetrical, diagonal movement. No other Thwomp in this entire series dares to move diagonally. Truly a visionary, a revolutionary, light years ahead of everyone else, living in a completely different century than his peers. This absolute legend takes the concept of a thwomp to the absolute limit, redefines what his entire species can be capable of, showcasing a brand new world of infinite possibilities that were unfortunately never revisited since. It is clear to me that every thwomp that came after this one can only aspire to be as courageous, as daring, as groundbreaking as this one. And that is the list. I hope I was able to share a lot of interesting things about thwomps and why I love them so much. I'd like to point out that there aren't many Mario enemies you could make an equivalent of this list for. You can't really make top 10 Hammer Bros, for example. Just because of their design, placement, and portrayal throughout various Mario games, Thwomps became a fascinating case study of storytelling and world building, and I think that's really interesting and beautiful. Anyway, that's the video. Patreon.com/darkfry. You can support me for just $1 a month, and I'll see you on the next one, which will be completely different.